Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another video where today we are discussing exporting from DaVinci Resolve. I know it's not going to be it's going to be a short one. I'm not going to cover everything regarding exporting. I'm just going to cover the essentials. This is quite a big topic, so I'm going to try and make it as short as possible, giving you exactly and only what you need to know to export the best quality for your YouTube videos. Now, this might not only be applicable to YouTube videos, but seeing that we're focusing on YouTube, that this is going to be focused on your YouTube videos. Okay guys, so we've got some more exciting news. So currently it seems like the lockdown is going to end sooner than I thought, which is the end of April. So we have about, let's say, a bit more than a week left to do these tutorials, but we're going to cover everything that we need to cover, and then exciting times are to follow. So if you're into that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's jump straight into the export settings. Okay, so let's jump straight into DaVinci Resolve. And we are going to the export tab here at the bottom, and what we see at this point is at the left top our export settings. So let's for instance click on the YouTube tab. So you have a drop down here selecting your frame rate or your resolution. Let's go with 1080p. That's my current settings. So in resolution, it's easy to note that your resolution is basically what you shot at, or what you want to export at. For me, 1920 by 1080 is going to be full HD, which is going to be our export settings. So you can change this to what you want. This is very basic. Let's keep it there. And after that, you are going to see the format and the video codec. So before we go into that, let's go through what these settings are and what is the optimal solution for you. Okay, so let's start out with the very basic concepts. So your format is basically your container, and your video codec is, well, exactly that, your codec. Your codec stands for encoder decoder, and we'll get into the explanation for that a bit later. But for now, the first things that you need to understand is there's a container and there is a video codec. So what is your container? So your container contains information about your video, your audio, and your data tracks. So some examples of a container or this format is MP4 or MOV, which is QuickTime. You get several of those, and each container is capable of reading or encoding and decoding certain types of codecs. Okay, so now we move on to codecs. Now this is going to be quite a lengthy explanation. It's impossible for me to cover all the information about it, but I'm going to give you a more or less brief idea of how it works and what it is, so that we understand how to use it. So let's start with what you need to know is that every device has an encoder decoder. Let's say, for instance, you want to play a clip from let's say your memory stick through your TV. So you plug your memory stick directly into your TV. Now your TV has a chip which actually has the encoder decoder or the codec on it, and it will take your file and read it. So if you write out your file in a format or a container that's not readable by that codec, the TV will simply tell you file not supported. Okay, so let's back up a little bit and explain why do we actually need to know what codec to use and why do we actually use them. Let me give you an example. This camera that I'm recording from now, the EOS RP, is able to record at 120 megabits per second. So that equates to 432,000 megabits per hour. Okay, so now you need to remember that megabits and megabytes is not the same thing. So there's 8 megabits per megabyte. So that means that if I recorded 120 megabits per second, it's going to be a 54 gigabyte video for an hour. Now, who on earth can upload a 54 gigabyte video onto YouTube, which is only an hour long? Let's say like Blu-ray DVDs, which was 6 gig at a time. It contains a whole movie of 2 hours plus. So that's why we use this whole codec process, and that is basically to compress our file into a smaller file, and then when we put it into a device, then we decode it to play that file with losing as little as possible quality. Okay, so now if we go a bit more in depth of how this works, I'm going to put up a bit of a flow chart here on the screen, showing you the process from footage till when you play it on a device. So we start with your camera footage, which you record at, let's say, for instance, 120 megabytes per second. Then you go into video editing, you combine all your clips, and then you encode it using a codec. and a format, and then you get to a video file size. Now this video file size, the bigger the video file size is, the better the quality is going to be. But we need to keep in mind that certain, let's say if you want to upload it to a website, you can only use a certain size of file. So we need to keep in mind that we want the best quality for the lowest size of file. So okay, now we put our file in this device, like I told you earlier. This device will then decode it and then combine it again, and then give you the playback, which is the video that you edited and now showing on YouTube. Okay, so now that was a bit fast and a lot of information to take in, but essentially what you need to remember is that you have your camera and you record your footage. Your camera then encodes that footage to give you a video file, which is basically going to be your container. That video file you then take into your editing program, and with your editing program you again decode that data to edit the videos. You combine a lot of clips together, and then you encode them again by means of exporting. After you've exported your videos, then you go to a video file. So let's take another chart and explain basically the whole process from when you record the footage basically until when you exported the footage. So let's start with the camera. Your video camera has the capability of capturing your video as well as capturing your audio. So now we've got the information, but we still need to put the information onto the memory card that's still in the camera. So your built-in electronics of your camera will then encode both your video and your audio and combine them into one container containing all of those data. So that means that the first time you get used to a codec is actually within your camera, even before you've seen the footage. Because now it's important to notice that there's different formats for different cameras. So each camera has its own encoding method, and that is going to be a function of how fast your camera can capture information. Now capturing information is a whole topic on its own. It includes like color, bit rates, performance of your raw files and whatnot. So I'm not going to go into that today, because otherwise it's going to be a way too long video. But essentially what you need to know is that you capture your video data, you capture your audio data, and you combine them by encoding, and then you have a container which contains your information about the audio and the video. Okay, so now it's important to note that an encoder has two main roles, which the first one is writing data into a standard that's readable by multiple devices, and the second one is to compress your data. Now within a camera we don't want to compress the data, so we're merely writing it into a readable format, encoding it into a readable format. Okay, so next, now we put our memory card into our computer and we drag this file into let's say for instance our editing program DaVinci Resolve. So now in DaVinci Resolve, when we read this data, it will decode the information in that container, and we will find a video track and an audio track. And then we go through this whole video editing thing, you know, the fun part. At the end of our edit, we sit with all of this footage, and if you take all of the data of this footage, we are going to end up with, let's say, a 20 gigabyte video. So now we need to use the encoder to both put it in a readable format. Probably, let's say for instance it was H.264, now we're gonna keep it H.264, but now we need to take advantage of the other end of the encoder, and that is to compress the data. Okay, so finally, after 9 minutes of chit chat, hopefully you got the idea that your file format is the container containing the information that was written by your codec, which is in this case like video files and audio files. Okay, for a very last attempt, I'm going to paint you a picture of how a codec works, and hopefully that can simplify the idea a bit. Let's start with a story. So I've seen a pig fly. So what I want to do now is I want what I've just seen to be painted. So now I've got this image in my head. How do I get it onto a painting? I can't paint myself, I need someone else to paint it for me. Okay, so now I've seen this image of a pig fly, and I'm going to convert it using my codecs, which is English. So there's several different codecs. I mean, there's a lot of languages, but I'm going to use English. That's my codec. So now I've got this codec. Now I want to put it in a container. My container can either be a verbally or via email or via letter or handwritten or whatever. Let's say, for instance, I am going to do it verbally. So I'm going to go up to someone and I'm going to talk to them about it. So that's the media file. That is how they receive it, is the media file, which is what they hear what I'm saying. Now they hear what I'm saying, but now they need to also be able to understand English to decode it. So now they've heard what I'm saying and now they're decoding what I've said, and they're painting the picture in their own head. And after they've painted the picture in their own head, then they can go forth and paint what I've said. Okay, so what you need to remember is what that person is going to paint is merely what I've told him. So there's losses between what I've seen and what he's eventually painting. But the better I describe it to him, so the better codec I use, the better the painting is going to be in the end. As well as there's compression. So if I want to write only a short letter or give him a short sentence, then essentially giving him a smaller media file, then the painting is also going to have a lot of losses. So that's, hopefully, I don't know if that helps, but that's how I have got the picture in my head of how codecs work. I don't know even if it's right, but so if you have a better idea, let me know in the comments. So we can finally jump to what you all came here for, and that is to the export settings in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so we're back in DaVinci Resolve. Go to the export tab, and the first thing, like we went in the beginning of this video, top left is our export settings. Let's go custom, and what we want to do here, you can put in your file name, the location you want to save it. We are going to render the whole video. So for you have the settings for your video and the settings for your audio. So your audio has a codec for encoding the audio itself, and then the video also has the format and the codec for the encoding the video. Now we are going to be focusing on this part right here and the quality. So the format is going to be QuickTime for me. So each format has different codecs. So MP4 only has H.264. I'm going to use QuickTime, and QuickTime gives you a little bit more option. Now first of all, you need to focus on what is the reason why you're exporting your video. Is it going to be for future edits? So in that case, I would recommend going and changing your codec to this DNX HR, and the type is going to be specifically DNX HR HQ. Now there's a lot of different things you can read up about all of these codecs, and if you're planning on choosing another codec, I would recommend go reading up about it. There's advantages and disadvantages of each and every codec. For now, I'm only showing you what I use and my methods, and this is specifically towards editing for the future and also uploading your videos to YouTube. Okay, so now resolution and frame rate is pretty basic, and use constant bitrate. That's not necessary. I would not recommend putting that on. Our pixel aspect ratio, that's everything we discussed in previous videos. Essentially, this is a very important part right here. So this is the first format I would add to my render queue. If we then go back, my second format would be the one I use for uploading my videos to YouTube. So for the format, I'm going to use QuickTime. For the codec, I'm going to use H.264. And resolution frame rate is going to be the same. Now under quality, this is where I would recommend choose automatic and do best. I've done a lot of examples with this. I've exported over 20 different videos comparing file sizes and writing bit rates and whatnot, and every time I've tested it, it comes out the best when you choose the quality to be automatic and set on best. And the last method I would recommend is using a external program called Handbrake. So remember, I've exported my footage in that DNXHR format, so I would take that file, put it into Handbrake, and in Handbrake it gives you much more settings that you can edit. So in that program you can better choose the quality to specifically your needs. So okay guys, that has been a very long video, way longer than I'm expected. In the beginning of the video I even said it's going to be a short one today, but essentially what I wanted to say is the export settings that I'm going to show you is short, but the whole process in understanding how we do it and why we do it is that's a very long topic. So I hope you found this video full of information and helpful. If you did, hit that like button, maybe consider subscribing. We are going to do not only tutorials, well actually tutorials is only for a very short time, it's only for this lockdown, but thanks for watching guys, and we will see you in the next episode. Cheers.